right, welcome back, guys. If you will, in your journal, on your table of contents, I need you to put whatever page you're on, and we're going to talk about the intro to quadratic equations. So now we're done with exponential, and we're going to move into quadratic. Okay, once you have your table of contents filled out, if you will, go ahead, flip on over, and here's some information for you. If you want to pause and write, you can. I do have some more, but we'll have to move it down for you to write in a minute. So pause and write this, or if you want to write it as we're going, that's fine, but you need to pause and make sure you're staying with me so you know what you're doing. Okay, so the standard form for quadratic equations is y equals ax plus by plus c. A, b, and c can be any number, and x and y have to stay put. Okay, now a quadratic equation creates a U-shaped graph, and we call it a parabola. It looks like parabola, but it's pronounced parabola. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just sketch two graphs. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to y equals, and you're going to type in x squared. Whoa, I typed that wrong. X squared plus 2x minus 5, and you're just going to hit graph. Excuse me. Okay, so when you're sketching a graph, nothing has to be perfect. So what I'm going to do is just draw my x and y axis. And then I'm going to ideally trace it about what it looks like over here. And it looks something like that. I may be a little bit off, but it is something similar. Okay, now I am going to put some important information in here on this. So I'm going to put a dot right here, because you're going to learn what this word is in just a minute. This is what we call a vertex. Okay, and I used to have a blue pen. I am also going to draw at that vertex a dashed line going up and down, because that's what we call our axis of symmetry. And I will explain what an axis of symmetry is in just a second, but that is the sketch. That's all I need you to do. So now we're going to go to the second graph. So I'm going to put my T. I'm going to go back to my calculator. I'm going to clear it out. Negative x squared plus 3x plus 7. And I'm going to hit graph. This graph looks something like this. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, at the top part, I'm going to put that is my vertex. I am going to draw in that dashed line right there for my axis of symmetry. Now, looking at your sketches, you can tell that one is right side up and one is upside down. The reason this one opens up is because it starts with a positive, and the reason this one opens down is because it starts with a negative. Okay, so in other words, I just answered this. If A, and remember, A is the very first number, so on here it'd be 1. If A is positive, then the graph opens up. And the way you can remember if it opens up, it's going to look like a U. U is an up. Okay, if A is negative, so like this example, we have -1, then the graph opens down. And the way you can remember down is it's like an N in down. Okay. So now moving into a vocabulary word, I'm going to go ahead and move this up just a little bit. So if you want to pause and write the rest, you can. But I told you from these sketches I was going to give you some vocab, and we have an axis of symmetry. Okay, you're going to be finding your axis of symmetry today, and the way you write it is just x equals whatever number you come up with. So it's always x equals, no y equals. Okay, and an axis of symmetry is a vertical line that divides the parabola into two halves. So if you come back up here and look at your examples at my dashed vertical line, I could take this and fold it in half, and it would be a perfect mirror of each other. It would be right on top of each other, if I could draw perfectly. To find your axis of symmetry, we use this formula, and it's written as x equals -b over 2a. Okay, the other key word that you need to know from this is your vertex. And as you can see, that's where I put a dot. Okay, the vertex is the turning point of the parabola. So like as you go left to right, this is where it starts shifting and going back up. As you go left to right, this is where it shifts and starts going back down. Okay, now there are two types of vertex that you need to know. A maximum, the vertex is high and it curves at the top. So this, I'm going to come up here now and write it so you know, this is a max. Okay, a minimum is a vertex that is low and curves at the bottom. So this graph is a min. Excuse me. Okay, so there are ways to find these in the calculator, but today we're going to do it by hand in some calculator. So make sure you have your calculator. And I'm going to go ahead and flip to the back because I have a few examples back there. And the way we do my examples are going to be the exact way I want you to do your worksheet. So I have 5 examples for you. What we're going to do is sketch each graph, algebraically find the axis of symmetry, and then find the vertex. Okay, so first thing I want you to do, sketch it. We're going to go to y equals. I'm going to put in x squared plus 8x plus 15. I'm going to graph it. And I'm not going to be as picky on your sketches this time. So what you are going to need, I want my axis, I want my x and y axis. And this one, I'm right-handed, there we go, looks something like this. Okay, when you're doing yours, I want you to do 2 things to it for me. I want you to put a dot right there with the dashed line to show me there's your axis of symmetry. Okay, I've sketched it. Now I'm going to find the axis of symmetry. To find the axis of symmetry, we're going to do negative b divided by 2a. Well, to do this, the first thing that's going to help you is if you know what a equals, what b equals, and what c equals. Okay, a is the first number. The first number is 1. B is the number with x, and that's an 8. And c is the number by itself, so 15. Now I'm just going to plug in my formula. That negative sign always stays there, and b is 8, divided by 2 times, and a is 1. This gives me negative 8 over 2 times 1 is 2, and negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 4. Now, I want you to take that answer and just draw me an arrow to the axis of symmetry and put x equals negative 4. To find your vertex, I'm going to let you use your calculator. And here's how you're going to do it. You already have it in the calculator, so just go to the table. Find where x is negative 4. And so let's see, I'm going to write this, vertex. And our vertex will be negative 4, negative 1. So over here where we put this dot, I want you to draw an arrow and put negative 4, negative 1, and you're done. Okay, moving to our second example. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to draw my axes. I'm going to type in negative x squared plus 10x minus 23, and I'm going to graph it. Oh, I forgot the x. See, if I forgot the x. To get it back in there, you can press second, DEL, and just x. And now I'm going to graph it. Now it should show up. There we go. Okay, this one looks something like this. I'm going to go ahead and draw in my axis of symmetry with my vertex. Okay, to find the axis of symmetry, I need to know that A is negative 1, B is 10, and C is negative 23. Okay, here's your formula. I'm not going to rewrite it. I'm just going to use it. So I'm going to do negative B is 10 over 2 times, and A is negative 1. That 2 is always in the formula. I'm going to pause, and I'll finish after announcements.
Good morning, teachers and students. We're going to have our regular announcements here in a second, but I had one.
Okay, so finishing this up, sorry, let me get back to the video. Okay, once I plug this in, you're going to keep the negative 10, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, And negative 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. So I have x equals negative 5. And I want you to draw me a line to the axis of symmetry and tell me it's x equals negative 5. And then we're going to go, excuse me, into the calculator and go to the table. And we're going to find, oh, wait, this is positive 5. Big mistake on Mrs. Henson's part. We're going to go back into the table and find where x is positive 5. And I get for my vertex 5, 2. So I'm going to label the vertex 5, 2. Okay, for my next example, 4x squared plus 8x minus 1, gonna graph. Okay, so here we go. This graph looks skinny and long. So something like that. Vertex, axis symmetry. A is 4, because that's the first number. B is whatever's with x. And C is whatever's by itself. Excuse me. We're going to do x equals negative, and you always do b, so 8, divided by 2 times, and we're going to do 4. So this becomes negative 8 over 8, which equals negative 1. So my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1. To find my vertex, I go into the calculator. I find negative 1. And with negative 1 is negative 5. So I'm going to label my vertex as negative 1, negative 5. Okay, for 4, my A is negative 1, my B is 4, and my C is 0. I don't have a number by itself. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear this out and type it in. Negative x squared plus 4x. And we're going to graph it. Okay, something like that. Vertex and axis of symmetry. I'm going to do x equals negative, and I put in a 4, over 2 times negative 1. Okay, that gives me negative 4 over negative 2, which gives me a positive 2. So my axis of symmetry is 2. Axis of symmetry, x equals 2. I go to my table. I find 2. With 2 is 4. So my vertex is 2, 4. Okay, my last example. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. My A is negative 2. I do not have a B. I don't have an X, so my B is 0 and my C is 8. I'm going to go ahead and type this in. Negative 2x squared plus 8. Looks something like that. We're going to do x equals negative b is 0 over 2 times negative 2. Okay, you can't have a negative 0, so that's 0 over negative 4. And when you put this in your calculator, 0 divided by negative 4 is just 0. So x equals 0. Okay, from here, I'm going to go find my vertex. So I'm going to go second graph, find 0, and I got 0, 8. So I'm going to label my vertex as 0, 8. Now, the cool thing about your axis of symmetry, it's where it's folding in half. So this does fold in half on the y-axis, which is at 0 for x. So make sure that you check them. This is what you're doing on your assignment. And if you have any questions, let me know.